Yeah.
We are less than 4 months away from the start of the college football season, which means it is definitely not too early to start looking ahead to the top games of week 1. What are the marquee matchups that are going to be must-see TV when college football returns? That is what we are talking about today. Here at the Gridiron Expert, we will be ranking our top 5 week 1 games of the 2022 season. We're going to break down everything you need to know about each game, not sharing predictions, just sharing everything you need to know and why you need to watch these games. So we're going to go ahead and jump right on into it with our number 5, the 5th ranked game on our list, LSU, Florida State in New Orleans, and this game is the lone game on Sunday night. You know, college football, that official week 1 begins on September 1st on a Thursday night and stretches all the way to Monday. LSU and Florida State will be the lone game on Sunday night, and this is an exciting one. Obviously, 2 historic and typically very solid programs that have taken a step back in recent years. I know LSU is just a few years removed from a national championship, but they had a disappointing year during that COVID season and a very disappointing year in 2021, going 6-7. But this marks the beginning of the Brian Kelly era. Brian Kelly comes in from Notre Dame, is now the new head coach at LSU, and both LSU and Florida State are looking to bounce back again from those disappointing seasons. LSU 6-7 last year, Florida State 5-7 last year, has yet to make a bowl game under Mike Norvell. And this is a game, again, that might be a game between 2 unranked teams. If any team's going to be ranked, it's going to be LSU. They're not going to be ranked high. This is an LSU team and Florida State team that both have roster questions, have questions across the board, and a loss for either is going to look bad. It's going to be a disappointing start for Brian Kelly, and if Florida State loses this game, it could spell another rough year for the Seminoles, depending on how they look against the Tigers. But to me, this is a bigger game for Florida State. It's a bigger game for Mike Norvell. He's 8-13 during his time with the Seminoles, starting off the year with a loss. They do play in week 0 against Duquesne, so could be 1-1 after this week. Would be a bad start for Florida State, and people will start getting very antsy once again. But the game in New Orleans between 2 historic programs, 2 coaches that desperately need to kick off their year with a good win, a good resume-boosting win, it's going to be a lot of fun down in New Orleans, right in LSU's backyard. Coming in at number 4, we've got the backyard brawl. West Virginia at Pittsburgh on Thursday night. No better way to kick off the college football season. Finally, a rivalry renewed. West Virginia and Pittsburgh is one of the more underrated rivalries in college football. It is one of college football's oldest and most heated rivalries. They haven't played since 2011, but there have been 104 meetings between the Mountaineers and the Panthers. And again, finally renewing this rivalry, first meeting since 2011. This one has all the storylines, not just because the rivalry is renewed, but JT Daniels will be making his debut with West Virginia. Finally transferred out of Georgia, landed with the Mountaineers, makes them a potential dark horse contender in the Big 12, hopes to really give this Mountaineers offense a boost. They're taking on a Pittsburgh team that just won the ACC last year. Does have Keaton Slovis coming in at quarterback. Lose Kenny Pickett, drafted by the Steelers. But Keaton Slovis coming in hoping to pick up right where Pickett left off, but he's going to have to do it without their star wide receiver in Jordan Addison, who just entered his name in the transfer portal. And as of this video, we don't know where he's going, but more than likely he'll be heading out west to USC. But again, the backyard brawl, no better way to kick off this college football season. Again, a Thursday night game. Great quarterback battle between Daniels and Slovis, 2 transfer quarterbacks here. Both of those previously playing at USC, so a lot of USC connections here, especially if Addison jumps ship. It's going to be a great way to spend your Thursday night on September 1st. Coming in at number 3, Cincinnati at Arkansas. What a week 1 matchup. This is sure to be a top 20 matchup between the Bearcats and the Razorbacks. Yes, Cincinnati, they lose a lot. They lose their star quarterback in Desmond Ridder. They lose Jerome Ford at running back. They lose Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant, arguably their top 2 cornerbacks from last year's team that made the college football playoff, becoming the first group of 5 team to ever make the playoff. Luke Fickell has a major rebuild to do with Cincinnati. Arkansas, meanwhile, is trying to somehow be a dark horse contender for the playoff. The Razorbacks have seen a significant turnaround under Sam Pittman, and they have the team to make some noise in the SEC and nationally. Remember, the Razorbacks at one point last year were ranked 8th in the entire country. They're led once again by their star quarterback in KJ Jefferson, a loaded running back core, a loaded offensive line, and a very solid defense. This is a resume-boosting win for both teams. Whoever comes out victorious in this game is going to start their year off not just 1-0, but with a top 20 win on their resume. But to me, this is a bigger game for Arkansas as they need to start out 1-0 next week, the week after they play South Carolina, and start getting to the bulk of their SEC schedule. If the Razorbacks want to show that last year wasn't a fluke, last year's 9-4 season, if they want to show that they want to remain contenders not just in the SEC and nationally, they have to take care of business against a good Cincinnati team. We get down to our top two. These are the top two games, guys. These are the big ones. Georgia and Oregon in Atlanta. That comes in at number 2. The Bulldogs and the Ducks. The reigning national champions take on Oregon and Dan Lanning, who helped Georgia win the national championship last year. Dan Lanning was the defensive coordinator for Georgia last year and then left to take the Oregon head coaching gig. This should be a top 15 matchup, could be a top 12 matchup, and it will greatly affect the college football playoff race. Because if Oregon can pull off the upset over Georgia, they will immediately be propelled into college football playoff discussion, especially with how relatively weak the Pac-12 is. With the exception of maybe Utah and USC, Oregon has a pretty decent path in the Pac-12. If they can beat Oregon, they'll be propelled in that discussion, very similar to how they were when they defeated Ohio State on the road last year. Bo Nix already is an upgrade for Oregon. The offense was really the big Achilles heel for the Ducks last year. That should change drastically with Bo Nix under center. The defense, once again, looks pretty solid. The same, of course, can be said for Georgia, though, who has a veteran quarterback in Stetson Bennett and will always have a very strong defense with Kirby Smart as their head coach, along with the way that he's recruiting. Again, if Oregon wins this, their playoff hopes take a significant boost up. If they lose, they're not out of the question. Georgia, if they lose, they're not out of the playoff discussion. They play in the toughest conference in the country. A win, though, gives them a resume-boosting win and could spell another undefeated season for the Dogs because Oregon arguably is the toughest test on their schedule. Yes, you could say Tennessee, maybe Kentucky. Those aren't coming until later in November. Oregon might be the toughest test they face. If Georgia takes care of them, they might be on another clear path, not just to the SEC championship, but back to the college football playoff. And then coming in at number 1, guys, it really shouldn't be a surprise, Notre Dame at Ohio State. This should be a top 10 matchup. So in our top 3, we have gone from top 20 potentially between Cincinnati, Arkansas, to top 15 potentially between Georgia and Oregon, to top 10 potentially in Notre Dame and Ohio State. This will be a fantastic matchup to kick off the season. And a game that really begins the Marcus Freeman era for Notre Dame, and one that is huge, again, for Notre Dame's playoff hopes. The Georgia-Oregon game and the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, both those can drastically shape the playoff picture in just 1 week, in just the very first week of the season. We know Notre Dame, as an independent, typically can't afford a loss if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. This would not be a bad loss for them, with it being on the road against a potential top 2 Ohio State team. But a win would do wonders for Notre Dame's resume, would do wonders for them, and if they are undefeated or even a one-loss team come in November, would be strongly considered by the committee to make that Final Four. Ohio State, though, can't afford to lose this game either. A loss to Notre Dame, an 0-1 start, puts them in a tough spot because one more slip-up in a tough Big Ten slate could keep them out of the playoff for yet another year, 2 straight years. This is going to be Notre Dame breaking in a new quarterback without Jack Cohn, facing off against an Ohio State defense that hopes to see drastic improvement after the addition of Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State. Notre Dame's defense, which should hopefully be a strength for them, is going to have to go up against one of the best offenses in the country with C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and everybody else that Ohio State has loaded on this team. It's going to be a fantastic matchup in the Horseshoe. The stakes are extremely high, and it will once again beg the question, can Notre Dame win the big game? Something that Brian Kelly really could never seem to do during his time in South Bend. Can Marcus Freeman, in his first real regular season game with the Fighting Irish, can he win the big game against Ohio State and propel Notre Dame to the top of the college football playoff discussion? That's going to be the million-dollar question. So guys, we have a great week 1 coming up. Yes, it might not be as loaded as a slate as we have seen in years past, but those top 3 games that we just mentioned are all going to be top 25 matchups. West Virginia-Pittsburgh is a great rivalry renewed. It's going to be phenomenal, a great matchup there. And then LSU and Florida State down in New Orleans, a big resume-boosting win for either team, and both teams desperately needing a 1-0 start after the disappointment they have suffered. So really a a season-setting game for both LSU and Florida State. We have got a great slate. Those are our top 5 games for week 1, but stay tuned for tomorrow when we rank the top 10 games for the entire season. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. We want to hear from you, and we want you to become a part of our GE Nation. So make sure to do that by liking this video, by subscribing to our channel, getting our notifications. You do not want to miss out on any of the content we have for you going forward. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.